Welcome to the Biz Easy podcast, where small business is simplified for greater results. Brought to you by Resources and Development. Go to www.resources-development.com for help in taking your business to the next level. And now, help me welcome the host of the Biz Easy podcast, Steve McCrillis.
Welcome to the Biz Easy podcast, coming to you live from the culture capital of Mid-State Tennessee. Yes, I wrote that. where small business is simplified for greater results. My name is Steve, your host, and we will learn how to stay better focused on the things that make you great. Now, I'd like to introduce you to my partner and our resident guru of coaching, our lead business coach, Skip Williams.
Hey, Steve. Last night after winning the game, I decided to throw the ball into the crowd. But apparently, for some reason, that's frowned upon in bowling.
Rim shot. So what's the topic for today, Skip?
Steve, as analytical as I am, it took me way too late in life or into my career to discover that I should always be planning backwards. My hope is that you learn this tactic earlier rather than later in your business life. If we establish a benchmark of where your business is today, and then set a goal of where you'd like to be or need to be at some point in the future, we can establish the difference or the delta between those two numbers. So let's say your business revenue right now is $1 million and you need it to be $2 million within 2 years, or 2 years from today. That means we need to develop a 24-month plan that can grow our revenues by $1 million over 24 months. Now in order to do that, we start today and set our goals each month, and not only our goals, but a logical plan as to how we can accomplish those goals.
Mm-hmm.
All too often, we open the doors to our business, we work as hard as we can, and we let our business grow organically at its own pace, if you will. This is a mistake that I made years ago. Please learn from my mistakes rather than making your own.
Well, let's make no mistake about it, Skip. All small business owners aren't short of ambition or initiative. Planning, not always a priority.
That's probably true. Right? And growth needs a plan. And owners need to work to a plan to realize the growth that they richly deserve, and they put their life savings and their efforts into. I like to say a farmer without a plan is a gardener.
I like that.
A farmer plans in order to maximize the yield of his or her crops, and so too must a business owner. If we have a goal to add an additional $1 million to our top line revenue within 24 months, then we best get started figuring out how we will accomplish that. Perhaps it's projecting out how many more units we need to sell each month, how many new customers we need each month, what additional products or services we can offer to our existing customers, or possibly even a price increase. So if revenue is the goal, there are only so many ways to achieve that: higher prices, more volume, frequency, and additional products and services. If net profit is the goal, and that's where I usually like to set the goals, is the net profit, because as Steve always says, it's not the top line, it's the bottom line. We have some additional options besides the higher prices and so forth. We can work more efficiently. We can control the cost of labor. We can add some automation. We can minimize our overhead. We can do some better purchasing of raw materials, and there's others as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of information in one bite, Skip. Can you send out a list for those who like to break it down to digest? Better yet, log into resources-development.com, ask the experts, and request the list, and we'll get it right out to you. Is that fair?
Absolutely, we can. And don't forget, this is a blog. This comes from a blog that can be found on our website as well.
Yes.
The answer is usually a combination of the choices that I mentioned above. Once you have decided which vehicles to use to get to your destination, a route must then be established. How much should I increase my prices? How can I improve my marketing to drive new customers to my door? How will I increase the frequency of those of purchases? What additional products or services are wanted by my customers? Where should I advertise? Things like this. So we can create the tactics and the strategies that we need in order to achieve the objectives or the goals that we set. Most of these questions that require answers for planning will not be answered immediately, but will become apparent to you if you stay focused. Getting distracted can derail you from your plan before it's had a chance to succeed, Steve.
So how do you recommend the small business owner keep focused and have a daily, weekly reminder of what truly is important in the short run?
Well, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't say get a coach, because that's what I do. But you know, shameless plug, right? But you know, whether it's tickler reminders on your calendar, whether it's setting aside certain hours of the day to work on these things. But I've always said we should be worried about what's going to happen in our business the next 3 hours, the next 3 days, the next 3 weeks, the next 3 months, and the next 3 years. And if each week you're not working on each of those things, you're only working on the immediate, then you'll never get to your goals. You've got to work on the future if you want to obtain your objectives. So now you've decided, for example, that you need more customers. How many will you need to add each month for 24 months to get to your goal? Map that out, and each month write down how many you got. If you fall short this month, you know that you need to make that shortfall up next month. Keeping track each month is your early warning system, which allows you to analyze and adjust.
And if I may interject, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
There we go. might as well hit all the common sayings.
Well, then I'm going to add one more. If you treasure it, you should measure it. Okay.
There we go.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
When you're not hitting your targets, more analysis is required. Ask yourself why. Do you need to adjust the marketing message? Do we need to audit to make sure that everyone's asking, do you want fries with that? Did we give our customers a reason to say yes to us over the competition? Always. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
When you lay it out in its simplest concept, but I see as overwhelming in practice, am I overthinking this?
Probably not by much. It is a simple concept. It is difficult to have the discipline to keep it in practice. But again, if we can delegate and some of our other tasks so that we can spend more time working on the future of our business than the immediate of our business, then once we get into that discipline, it really doesn't become that hard. Sometimes it's just sitting and thinking.
Okay.
As I say, the simplification is so that you can understand what needs to be done. But you're correct; it can be a handful. But here's why it's important: the big players in your market are out planning you. They probably have dedicated people who do nothing but planning, strategizing, and marketing. And your small competitors are not doing these things at all, thereby giving you a competitive advantage against them. So this is your opportunity to carve out your fair share of the market, to hold big players back while eating up the other competitors' lunch. If it were easy, you'd have more competitors, I guess. So
that's really great advice, and I appreciate your sharing your past foibles. I wish I could say I made all the right decisions at the right time, but as they say, hindsight is 20/20. If I only had a nickel for every decision I made that I had to correct, well, let's just say I'd be a wealthy man.
You wouldn't have had to start the business in the first place, right?
I wouldn't have had to have the subsequent businesses. That's right. Skip, I appreciate the fact that you spend your time weekly with clients, holding them accountable for what they have decided that they want to accomplish. What's your advice for those who don't have a sounding board, or an objective friend, a colleague, a partner, a significant other who can be that accountability partner for them?
Well, I guess the best advice is get one, because this is awfully hard to do by yourself. And as well-meaning as a friend can be, or even a significant other, they don't always understand the pressure that you're under, as well as some of the constraints. More importantly, it's easy to say do this, but they don't understand the constraints that you're under that make it near impossible to do those things. So find somebody who understands the business, who will stand right by you and think through these things with you and help you create a plan. Steve, I can't say enough about you. You've been that for me. Every time I come up against something difficult, I reach out to you, and we talk our way through it, and we come up with a plan that either we'll fix it, or maybe at the end of the execution we find out that was the wrong thing too, and we come up with something else. But it doesn't really matter. We think through it together. We come up with a plan, and we move forward. So you've been my accountability partner for a long time, and I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate your saying so, but I will say, for all the business owners I've met, I ask them, so when you're faced with a complex issue, or you're faced with some thoughts deciding, shall I do this, shall I do that? Who do you go to? We have become great advocates of having advisors, having people that you can go to ask specific questions, be it legal questions, be it accounting questions, or be it life balance questions, whatever. But who is your sounding board? Who is that person that you can go and you can banter these things off? And I use this analogy all the time. Have you ever gotten yourself into a spot where it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you wake up, and at that point you have this epiphany of a means or way that you are going to change your entire job? It's going to make things so much easier. You're going to implement it into your company. You're going to share it with your employees. It's going to become policy, and you can't go back to sleep anymore because you're so excited about this new idea. And then it gets to be about 7 o'clock, and you're so antsy, you want to share it with somebody. So you go to your sounding board, your partner, your colleague, your wife, whatever the case is. And then you start talking. And then you hammering out all these things that went through your head since 2 o'clock in the morning. And then as you're saying it, you're looking at yourself thinking, wow, that sounded so much better in my head than when I just said it to you. And then that sounding board, if that person is available to you, said, "Now what?" And they're looking all perplexed at you and like, "I don't know. It just sounded so good." And then that sounding board says, "Well, what was this? What was that?" And you say, "What was this?" And then you get yourself back online and you say, "Yes, this is where I meant to go with that." Having a person who may understand where you are in your business, understand that the challenges and the barriers that you face on a day-to-day basis, which all entrepreneurs do because they're wearing a lot of hats. We've said that a million times. But just be able to stay focused on that one thing and have somebody keep you. And I always use this analogy when I talk about that. Have you ever seen the winter sport called curling?
Yeah.
Okay. So think of the entrepreneur as the guy who's throwing the stone, right? He's going to slide that stone down that 50-foot ice lake. I don't even know how long it is. I'm guessing. I should probably research that. Nevertheless, he tries to hit this 4-foot red circle or one of the other concentric circles. That's his objective. But he's not alone. He's got 2 people down on the other end with brooms, and what they're doing is sweeping the ice to warm it up so that it makes the stone go faster or slower, and that's what they're doing. That's what you need. You a bunch of broom handlers.
There you go. Yeah, because even those 2 a.m. brainstorms that you talk about that sounded better in your head, there's usually a seed of an idea there.
That's right.
And if you share this with a person who doesn't understand your business, they're just going to look at you and say you're crazy, But the right person will say, well, if we threw that out, but we did this, then I think we can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish there. And before you know it, you've come up with something that can enhance your business significantly, or to some degree at least. I was going to say, other than the most sole proprietor business owners, when they need to make a decision, it's a dartboard is how they make their decision. Or they might as well be using one.
The beauty of being a small business owner means that you're agile. You can make a decision. If it doesn't go the right direction, you can make another one and another one. This is not the case of IBM, Apple, Tesla. They don't make quick decisions and turn on a dime. A small business owner can, because if you lack the wisdom and knowledge to make a more informed decision, you're going to make a decision, which unfortunately in many cases forces you to make another decision. And you learn by trial and error. It's unfortunate, but that happens more often than not. And entrepreneurs don't typically stop everything they're doing and stay focused on one thing. There's one thing we do know about entrepreneurs: they're hardest working people in the world, because they have so many things they have to keep balls in the air in order to stay ahead of the game.
But every decision has unintended consequences. And sometimes you need somebody else to think through what those unintended consequences are, so that you can adjust or decide that consequence is worth it or not worth it,
It's the
So,
objectivity. It's the objectivity of it to be able to see outside of the lines. That's absolutely true.
right.
So, Skip,
What?
I appreciate your sharing another blog, yet another thing that one must attend our website for. This and a host of other blogs. Not all of our topics are taken from blogs, and we invite you at any point in time to send in your requests, ask the expert, and these turn into blogs, and they've been very, very beneficial. I've heard great reports from those who have been listening to the podcast say, hey, I really enjoyed the one about, and we'd like to hear that from you as well. I think we have a few more minutes. If you want to put into at least an executive summary what we talked about today, Skip, we'd appreciate that.
Once again, it seems obvious on paper, but it doesn't seem always obvious to us when we're in practice and building our business to, like I say, work backwards. We work hard, but we can't mistake our effort for accomplishment. Working hard is a virtue for sure, but working smart is really what you need to do. So take and assess where you are today, figure out where you need to be, and always be planning how you're going to make up that difference. And and oftentimes you have to adjust. You can't you set a goal. You set a goal. You do the best you can, but if it doesn't work, you need to come up with a new plan and work to that. That's all.
I think P.T. Barnum summed it up best when he said, "That's all there is to it, aside from a few million details."
That's right. That's right.
I hate to cast doubt on that sentiment, but no, I absolutely think you're right. And setting goals is not easy for most people. They don't sit down and say, what exactly do I want? I know that there's some outlandish statistic that 90% of people who actually write down their goals are more likely to achieve them, as opposed to those who just dream them. And that's principally the difference between a dream and a goal, right? I mean, a goal is something you write down, you put a timeline to. A dream is something that just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy on a sunny day. So understand the difference and understand the impact that it can have on your business. I know you, as our lead coach, I always advocate get what the objectives are, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
That's right. Well, that's all I've got, Steve. Just tune in next time, and we'll try and come up with more pearls of wisdom.
Sounds good. And
that's a wrap.
that's a wrap.